Oxymorons are figures of speech that express opposites. For example, we refer to jumbo shrimp, the same difference, pretty ugly, and honest politicians. Now, it's sad when we associate politicians with broken promises, but in Judges 11, there is a politician who kept his promise, a man by the name of Jepthah. But this man's entire life is an oxymoron, a study in contrast. He's listed, for instance, in the roll call of faith as one of the great champions that we read about in Hebrews chapter 11. But in Judges 11, he evidences a number of character flaws. His greatest triumph led to his greatest tragedy. But it fits the narrative in Judges, for that book is filled with heroic successes and horrible sins, often in the very same chapter and by the same character. Now, Jephtah's past was filled with difficulty. His mother was a prostitute. He carried the stigma of illegitimacy. And how sad it is that children are often born into a very hard situation, not because of their choice, but the consequences of an adult's sin. And that was true of Jepthah, and we see a lot of that today. But worse than any mockery that he might have known outside the home were the taunts of his own family. Where he should have found shelter and acceptance, he had strife and anger. Having his fill of it, he ran away from home. He was a survivor. The difficulties shaped him into being a leader. Jepthah attracted a number of other malcontents, and they became mercenaries. The valor of Jepthah became renowned. The reality is, by the grace of God, we can rise above our past. A poor upbringing can be turned from a hindrance to a help. Instead of it being a fire inside to consume us with rage, it can become a fire inside to ignite us to rise. Jephtah's resume would not have impressed someone looking for a leader. God, however, delights to reach into the garbage dump, bring out a discarded and battered tool, clean it up, and make it useful again. Now, most of us are reclamation projects. If you don't believe that, just read 1 Corinthians chapter 1, verses 26 through 29, where Paul describes us in that way. When Israel needed help, they sought Jepthah to lead them in battle. When God uses people like this, he gets all the glory. This man didn't seek the position, but the position sought the man. And it is your duty to prepare yourself for service and God's responsibility to place you in service. Now we read in the text that the Ammonites had declared war on Israel. Jepthah tried to negotiate peace, but when that was rejected, he called the people to battle. It was then that this politician made a promise that he would keep, but one that should never have been made. Jepthah had the Spirit of God with him, and that was all he needed. He was chosen by God, and that was enough. Instead, he makes a rash vow that will lead to the death of his young daughter. You see, Jepthah said that if you give me victory, God, the first one to meet me as I come back from battle, I will offer as a sacrifice. And in the Bible, we see that it was his own precious daughter. Now, I want you to understand that God did not condone his action. Scripture simply records the folly of it. He should have prayed what we need to pray. Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips. Jepthah had enough faith to lead an army, but too much folly to control his tongue. May the Lord help us.